Straight, No Chaser by Mark Chadbourne. Brody's is the kind of club you rarely come across these days. You know it the moment you step through those Art Deco swinging doors and breathe deeply. It's in the air, soaked deep into the grain of the bare wood floorboards and the scratched tables and the long oak bar, like 70 years of spilled bourbon. It's in the fabric of the long, low-ceilinged place. Brody's is a club where music matters, where the syncopation celebrates the off-step, skip, and jump of life itself. You'd never guess it by checking out the finger-snapping, nodding, knowledgeable clientele. They're all dead. But even the dead deserve a nightlife. For a jazz joint of such high regard, it's a little off the beaten track. On the last leg of his journey, Hellboy stood with his back to St. Paul's Cathedral, facing the River Thames as Big Ben chimed midnight, and then raced east to Spitalfields. In the shadow of Nicholas Hawksmoor's mysterious Christ Church, a street visible only for 5 minutes led into the depths of the quarter where the dead liked to hang out. Clubs and pubs and bars sprawled along a labyrinth of narrow streets and alleys, lit by neon and flickering torches, and there, overlooking a small, cobbled courtyard, was Brody's. Hellboy had barely stepped through the door when an elderly man shambled up, grinning broadly. That was partly because most of his mouth was missing, but there was a definite sparkle in his glassy eyes. He wore a sharp if moldy suit in 1930 style and a hat pushed back on his head, a beetle nestling in the brim. "Not much life in here," Hellboy said. "You know we've heard that one before." The man chuckled throatily, did a few sprightly steps, and then shook Hellboy's hand. "Been expecting you, my man. The name's U.B. Parkhouse. You want a drink?" "No time. I'm on a deadline. I need the shoes by dawn or a pretty girl gets her wedding day ruined. Big time." "That's a dangerous path you've chosen. Those shoes are powerful mojo. They've been lost for a long time, and some mighty important people around these parts don't want them to be found." "I've come prepared." On stage, a tall, thin man tapped the microphone. He had pomaded hair and half his face charred to the bone, but he had the pearly smile of someone who thought they were in heaven. The stage lights came on, and the instant the band behind him launched into a version of Mercy, Mercy, Mercy. UB snapped his fingers and did another little dance and spin. Hellboy's attention was drawn to a member of the band. "Hey, isn't that—" "Sure is. You know who has the best tunes. We got some of the finest jazz and blues men ever to grace a stage playing round here on a nightly basis." UB carefully searched the shadowy corners of the club and then whispered, "I help you. I'm putting this club, everything, on the line." "I know that," Hellboy replied, "but I was told you were the only one who could help, and that if I told you why, you'd probably do it. The music was my life, and it's my death too. Without it—" Stifling a desperate edge in his voice, he examined his dead hands, the desiccated skin, flesh hanging loosely from the bone. "Let's just say, this whole deal ain't exactly a fat night at Radio City. I think I know what you're going to say, but come on, let's go somewhere quiet." UB led the way through the smoky atmosphere. "You found this place easy enough?" "Depends what you call easy. Took me 5 days, 3 countries, and a whole mess of breakages to get the next scheduled appearance of the entrance to the night quarter." "Yeah? Where was it this time?" "London." UB nodded thoughtfully. "Always did fancy seeing the world. As it was, never got much out of my backyard." They went up a flight of rickety stairs to a cluttered office. Old black and white photos of famous and forgotten musicians lined 3 of the walls. On the 4th was an enormous protective sigil, etched in blood. Hellboy inspected it. "Human?" "We didn't take every drop," UB said sheepishly. "What are you going to do about it? We're zombies. Besides, gotta look after my club." and yourself. You're supposed to know everything there is to know. That's gotta be a threat to those mighty important people, too. Yubi poured himself a shot and slumped into his chair. I've been around a long time, in this place and the world. Can't help but pick up information if you keep your ears and eyes open. He pointed to the most faded photo, a band posing with their instruments, faces serious but hats pushed back in the same jaunty angle that Yubi still wore his. Yeah, that's me. I played horn with Kid Ory's original Creole jazz band for a while. That would be back in 21, when they were on their way. The first black jazz band to make a recording. He shrugged. Dropped out before they made their place in history. Story of my life. After that I played with a lot of bands, some jazz, some blues, traveling up and down the Delta, hopping trains, thumbing a ride. Different night, different town, same beautiful sounds from my magic horn. He eyed the instrument, which gleamed in a glass case on a shelf. Yow! Hellboy snatched his hand back from the case as a flash of power crackled from the horn. Yeah, ain't that the thing, Yubi said. In our lives we carry round something special, something we hold in our hearts. And at the moment of our passing, those things soak up a deal of power. The stranger the passing, the greater the power. That's what happened to the shoes? Yeah, except those shoes got a double dose. You see, you're thinking shoes, right? They're like nothing, like a newspaper you leave on a park bench, or a comb, or a toothpick. Use 'em up and throw 'em away. But back in those days, shoes meant something, for my brothers and sisters. A lot of us didn't have shoes, and if you did, you were on your way somewhere. You earned those shoes, and you showed them off, and you walked right up to hell's door in them. The clock on the wall struck 1:45. Time's running out. Are you going to help me? Yubi weighed Hellboy's words, then asked, Tell me about this girl and her wedding. Her name's Clarice Masterson. She's one of the Immortals. Yeah, I heard of those dudes. The Immortals and the Dead. We got a lot in common. Time on our hands, for one. You hit the nail on the head. Clarice got herself wrapped up in an arranged marriage with one of your guys, Malcula. Yubi rolled his eyes. Oh yeah, the favored one. It's a symbolic thing, bringing the two families together, peace in our time. No more trouble between the Immortals and the Dead, like the one I got caught up in over in Cape Town in '59. But if it doesn't happen, there's going to be a big war and hell to pay for the rest of us caught in the crossfire. Except it's also a risk, right? The rules say no immortal and no dead shall ever wed. It's an alchemy thing, or like pouring gasoline on a blaze. But the shoes, the power in 'em anyways, will stop the whole fire raining from the heavens and judgment from on high thing. Hellboy nodded. The ceremony starts at dawn, and I want cake. Yubi sighed. Big stakes. I can see why you've got yourself so worked up. That's not all. If the shoes don't arrive in time, they're going to press on with the wedding anyway, and if that happens, Clarice dies. That's crazy. She's an immortal. When the rules are broken, everything changes. She dies, just like everyone else. Downstairs, the band kicked into a song that Hellboy recognized. I got my mojo working. That's our cue. Let's go.